Hey guys, back with another redraw on this one. So just to say, I've already redrawn this piece once, 2 years ago. I'll link the video below, but we're revisiting it again 2 years in the future from that day. How monumental! It's more than 2 years. It's more like 2 years and a couple months. But let's talk a little bit about the one from 2019. At the time, whenever I animated that one, I was just getting into pixel art, and I think that it shows in how it looks. I used a different software, pixelart.com, which is a great software to use, especially as a beginner, because it's free. But I'm using Sprite now, as I always mention at the beginning of every video, and the reason why I always mention that is because it's the best software you can use. It's 20 bucks, buy it, whatever. Support those guys that create it. It's great. Anyway, when I drew that back in 2019, I remember being really happy with the original and how it turned out. It was my first time really animating anything that I'd made, drawing or anything, so it actually was a bit of a perspective changing moment, and the things that I used to would have drawn in pencil, on paper, or pen, on paper, or paint, on paper, or whatever, had now become one of those things where if this an idea could work and being animated, it had to be a pixel art animation now, which kind of spurred all this journey into the beginning direction that it is currently. What a garbage collection of words that I just used there. But 2 years passed, and I revisited it, and the skills that I developed through 2019 and 2020, I applied those to this newer image. And you can see both of them side by side at the beginning of this video. But now we're tackling the third one. So let's chat about the one that I'm currently working on. I wanted to revisit the idea of the wizard getting the taco that it was talking about in the first image that pops up with the red line around it. I cut that out in 2021 because at the time, I felt it was a bit stupid, but in 2023, I'm a new man, and I'm ready to keep the taco thing going. But this man fulfills his destiny, and he gets the taco this year. My influences have changed a lot over the last 2 years. In 2022, I think I took a lot of my influences from a general indie game style, and then 2 years forward, I think a lot of my current influences rest in simpler sprite work and just more subtle animation in general. And I don't know why that is. Maybe I can reflect on that in 2 more years whenever I redraw this again, if I decide to do so. But what comes to my head in the moment, I think that is the biggest inspiration and kind of got me started on that pathway, was Batman for the NES. It has a really strong boldness, and the frame transition work is like very subtle before it transitions to bigger movements. And I think that shows here. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm just going to link a long play version of that below, and you can just skim through it and see what I mean. You'll see those influences there. I love that kind of thing, and I love the NES influences in my work now. I'm going to call it like the things that influence it now, like dirty edge sprite work, in part just because there was a lot of limitation when it comes to NES games. And at the time, I think that whenever I recreated this in 2021, I just dismissed it as less than, just because it wasn't as capable as the Super NES or whatever it may be. But now I feel like that's mainly inspiring more just because it's done with less and doesn't necessarily look less, and it just is, I don't know, has a more meaningful, more powerful presence in my head. I don't know why. All our influences change throughout the course of time, but I feel like now the general indie game pixel style, and I don't mean this to disregard any indie game pixel style just in general, but for me, the general indie game pixel style is just a little too cheery or chipper for my current headspace for all my work, even outside of my pixel artwork. I think that my stuff is a bit more edgy, which sounds kind of cringy, I guess, but it's just a bit darker than it once was, and I think this is where I'm at now, and I think a lot of that shows here. As I say that, we're approaching the end of the general structure of this piece. As you can see, he got his taco, and I threw in a little Baja Blast for good measure. The man sweated it out in the sun for 4 years getting here, so he needed a little bit of hydration. Looking at it though, I think it does a good job of referencing the original one from 2019, and I tried not to let my work from 2021 influence me too much. I want it to be a little bit more honorable to the 2019 headspace. With that said, we're now headed into the animation parts of this. I knew I probably didn't want to invest as much time into the wind blowing bits this time around. I just really wasn't interested in revisiting that part of the image, as I think I did about as good as I could do now the last time I did it, and I didn't really feel like it would add any additional satisfaction to the outcome for me personally. So instead of just keeping the taco away this year, I shunned the wind. Maybe we'll see the wind blow again in 2025, I don't really know. I also should mention that I posted this on Reddit not long after it was finished, and a lot of people commented that they liked the 2021 animation or style better, and I think that the fact that people were passionate enough about some piece from this series to take the time to share their opinion is really something special, because pieces don't always get comments, or especially positive comments about other pieces or parts of an image. One thing that I do want to make clear though, and I want to make it clear to you guys as you progress, I wasn't really concerned with what I thought people would consider to be better. My goal was to create something that was true to the design decisions that I would make with where I'm at currently in my progression as an artist. And I think that that's key in any artist progression, especially if you're exploring something at your leisure. Explore the things that interest you. Otherwise, you'll end up with something that may look great to a lot of people, but may be a frustrating mess to you as the creator of the work. Just do what's fun. Obviously, pushing your boundaries in new directions based on feedback or critique is worth growing your skill set, but if you're just wanting to have fun, follow your interests. With that said, I think all three have their strengths and are representations of who I was at the time they were created, and that was the goal. The goal wasn't just to distill it to its best version over a 4-year process, and I must admit, recreating old animations verbatim feels like a total chore to me. It just feels stale. I guess this can all be summed up by me saying, I want to be true to what I like, and I love all three, but this is just where I'm at currently. I'm not digging for likes or love. I just want people to see that artists' interests and skills progress. We're always in motion, and there's new things to be learned in previously dismissed territory, or even beyond walls that we formerly couldn't see past in our artistic progression. I think that the last time I revisited this, my goal was a bit more self-serving, as I wanted people to see that I had gotten better, which is fine. I'm fine with the role that played in the things that I created then, but I know now that my goal with recreating this image was hopefully enheartening other artists and letting them know that you can change. We all change, our approach changes, and it's nice to have a reference point to look back on, like I did with this. The most interesting part of this image for me was being able to reflect on my mindset that I had the 2 times I created this image before. The first time I had some excitement about the potential of what I could do next with the skills that I had acquired from it. The second time was about getting better and seeing if I could conform to the general standard of what's good and impressing people with my progress, which sounds a bit cringy now for me, but it worked for me then. Now, I know that I'm more interested in sharing an artistic journey so that you guys can know we're all on this journey together. I didn't mean for this to get preachy, but I think that it's important to talk about that part of creating art. We often cut out that dialogue in favor of trying to look like we know what we're doing, and I think this kind of thing definitely needs to be said. I'm not the best pixel artist, I'm not the best artist in general, and that's got to do with the fact that all of us are growing, and I find that more inspiring than anything else, and I hope that you guys feel similarly. Alright, so here we are at the end, all 3 of them sitting next to each other. I hope to do this again in 2 more years, and then in 2 more years, and then 2 more years, and there's 2 more years, and definitely just to see what changes and how I make different creative decisions. Thank you guys for sticking around. If you've stuck around for this long, make sure to like the video if you liked it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. I try to post as often as I get the chance to. Yeah, subscribing lets me know you're interested. Alright, thanks guys. Bye.